Hello and welcome to the first episode of Cookin with Kragger. On today's episode, we're going to be doing a French toast casserole or a baked French toast. This is not my recipe. I saw this on Basics with Babish. You can also find the recipe on simplyrecipes.com, but I am just going to repeat the recipe here for anyone who wants to see it and go from there. Alright, so the first ingredient we're going to need for a French toast casserole is our bread. And you can use pretty much any type of bread you want. We have decided to go with a French brioche bread. It's going to provide a little bit more flavor. It's going to be a little more decadent. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is cut our own bread because we want it fairly thick cut. So I'm just going to angle this a bit for the camera. So you're going to want to try to go with 1-inch cubes. So yeah, let's go about there. Okay, once you have your bread cut into 1-inch cubes, next thing you're going to want to do is grab your casserole dish. We are using a 2-inch high rectangle casserole dish. We used this one last weekend. Wipe it with some butter and a paper towel or some sort of a cloth. You want to make sure that the bread and the mixture does not stick to the casserole dish. And this might also help crisp it up a little bit on the sides, which is going to be where all the best flavor and texture is going to be. Alright, so once your casserole dish is buttered, you can go ahead and put your bread in there. This is a good time to make sure you've got enough of the bread cut. One thing you want to make sure to be aware of is you're going to have to toss the bread in the custard once you start pouring it in there a little bit. So you don't want to overfill the casserole dish too much. Alright, so the next step is to make the custard. We're going to go with a bit of a high-fat custard. It's going to have a lot of flavor. It's going to have a lot of calories. But as you can see, that's not a problem. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is 5 whole eggs. Beauty. So we've got our 5 eggs, no shells. I don't know how I managed that, but we'll take it. Then you also need 3 to 4 tablespoons of packed brown sugar. You also need a half teaspoon of cinnamon, a half teaspoon of nutmeg. If you can freshly ground your nutmeg, that would even be better. Same with the cinnamon. And you also will need 1 to 2 teaspoons of vanilla. But what we are going to do today is use the vanilla bean itself. So you want to cut your vanilla bean down the middle. You want to make sure you get through the first layer. And then if you open it up, you're going to see all the good seeds on the inside here. There we go, look at all that vanilla bean goodness. Okay, and now what we're going to be putting in is the whipping cream. This is a very heavy cream. You can use half and half, you can use whole milk, anything like that. Put in 2 cups. Pour that into your mixture. Just be careful of the cinnamon because it does not like mixing with liquids. If you've ever tried the cinnamon challenge, you know what I'm talking about. And you want to slowly whisk everything together. Make sure you're breaking the eggs up and mixing them in nicely. Get all the goodness off the sides, make sure it doesn't stick there. It smells like Christmas in the middle of June right now. Now the next part is you want to incorporate the custard into your dish with your bread. So I'm just going to pour this slowly through. Make sure you get all the goodness from the bottom. So now you want to make sure all the bread gets soaks up the custard really nicely. And the very last step, you want to wipe down the edges. You don't want all of the custard on the sides to start cooking and burning. This will make cleanup after a lot easier as well. So it's worth doing the effort now. What you're going to want to do is preheat your oven for 350 degrees. So we'll get that going. The next step is you're going to make the topping. So we are going to chop up some pecans. How do you say this in Australia? Is it pecans? Pecans?
Pecans.
Pecans. I've probably got 2 cups of chopped pecans here, maybe 1.5, 2 cups. You can put as much as you want on, as little as you want on. We're going to go with the 2 cups here. Next thing you're going to need is 4 tablespoons of melted butter. I'm just going to put it in this container because it'll be easier to pour in after. 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Pinch of salt. And mix that up nice. Take your casserole dish. Sprinkle your chopped pecans over the top. And then you want to take your melted butter and cinnamon and brown sugar mix and just pour this over top. What this is going to do is give a little bit extra flavor. It's going to help the top crisp up. And once you try this, you're going to see why it's so worth it. Wipe off any messes you made. And one additional step at the end here, I'm going to put a bit of raw sugar. The recipe I watched used turbinado sugar, which I don't even know what it is, but I'm going to use some raw sugar. And hopefully this will help caramelize a little bit and give a little bit of missing sweetness, because there's no sweetness in this dish whatsoever at this point. Okay, there it is, ready to be baked. So what you want to do is bake this at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 35 to 40 minutes. You want to make sure you rotate it halfway through to make sure it gets even distribution of the heat. And we'll see you when it's done. Okay, the casserole's been in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 37 minutes, so let's take a look. As you can see, it is puffed up quite a bit. But what we're going to do now is we're going to let it rest for 10 minutes and it's going to settle back down again. So let's take it out. One thing you can do if you want is you can put this under the broiler, but keep a really close eye on it, because with all this sugar here, it's going to burn really quickly. But if you want to get a little more crispness, you can go ahead and put it under the broiler. I'm pretty happy with what we got there. So we're going to set it on top to cool down and rest for 10 minutes. And then we'll see how it tastes. Okay, as you can see, it has dropped quite a bit, but it is firmed up also as well. So you saw how much it jiggled when I pulled it out. It's actually firmed up quite a bit. So what we're going to do now is cut it, serve it, and eat it. You're going to want to go around the edges, make sure it's loosened up, and the corner pieces are going to be the best because you're going to have 2 edges of crispiness on those. So I'm going to serve 2 of those up. And we'll do a nice big fat piece for chubby Kragger. Now, if you want, you can put some butter on it. I'm going to put a little bit of butter on mine. And top with your syrup of choice. We're going to go with 100% Canadian maple syrup. And there it is. Baked French toast casserole.